Oh boy, what an absolute mess. You've got people calling out double standards, you've got people beefing with a 16-year-old, people accusing each other of being racist, harassing each other, a voice actor getting involved, and the issue of chasing art and profiting from it was raised. It's the electric boogaloo of the Marina meltdown. Now, before I get into it, don't harass anyone mentioned in this video, and please keep the conversation civil in the comment section. Now, I don't know if this is a crazy take, but you guys tell me if this is level-headed. Fan arts and fan edits that involve the bending of race, gender, body shape, sexuality, or any type of bending is completely fine. Artists should be free to draw what they want with their art and have that creative freedom. Play around with the what if aspect of creativity. People should be allowed to have fun. It's something that's never bothered me, and if I encounter something of the kind in the wild, it would be something that I'd look at and go, cool, that's pretty neat. And I think that's what most people do, or at least I hope they do. Hopefully I'm not being naive here. Which is why I absolutely had no problem at all seeing B-Cub's fan art of Marina from a month or two ago. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because for those of you who aren't aware, B-Cub Okawa is a Japanese artist and the creator of Pop Team Epic. He's a highly successful individual and respected individual at that who made this fan art of Marina from Splatoon a couple of months ago and was consequently accused of racism and was harassed to the point of having to put out a public apology. He was even given a death threat. The reason being, his fan art of Marina depicted her being a few skin tones lighter than the original. Again, me personally, I didn't have a problem with his fan art. I didn't see anything wrong with it, but it seemed like it ruffled the feathers of some people over on Twitter, and it turned into a whole issue between Japanese and English Twitter. I would also argue that this was the catalyst for the recent Dandadan meltdown, because if the B-Cub Okawa Marina fan art situation showed anything, it's that internationally, people are slowly getting fed up with the political correctness, the double standards, and the frustrations from that incident and from previous incidents are now spilling over to this one. Fast forward to the past week, we see the source of the entire recent debacle, which is this Dandadan fan edit of Okarun and Momo by a 16-year-old artist on Twitter, which depicts the protagonists as black. I'll explain why I'm calling it a fan edit later. Now, I'm not going to show the user handle because if they are young. I don't think people as young as the artist is should be getting this much negative attention, and they have privated their account as of recording. But I had the exact same reaction as I did towards B-Cub's fan art of Marina. I thought it was fine. I didn't really think too much about it. Until I remembered the entire meltdown some people had surrounding B-Cub's fan art and was genuinely concerned for the artist's mental well-being, because I knew exactly what type of attention their fan edit would bring concerning what's happened, not just the past month, but over the past few years from what I'm understanding. Now, over the course of this whole thing, people from both sides of the spectrum were stepping in to give their takes on the whole situation. Most notably though, the Japanese side of Twitter and those agreeing with them, pointing out the hypocrisy and double standards when it comes to issues like these. With this user saying, quote, "Not long ago, Japanese people weren't too upset about fan art that changed the appearance of characters, but a few months ago, when B-Cub drew Splatoon characters, black people taught Japanese people that even getting the skin color of a character wrong is racism." Personally, I agree with the sentiment, but I disagree with the blanket statement saying that all of the people harassing B-Cub over the fan art were black people. I think that's a little unfair. Rather, I would say it was a bunch of unreasonable people getting offended by a fan art. Another user saying, quote, "As a Latino, I understand how the Japanese people feel about Americans and their constant colonization of everything. Everything has to cater to them, even our language. I fully support the Japanese on purging these parasites, from the anime community." And another user saying, quote, "All this over some fan art. Grow up. Motherfuckers, you were the first ones that harassed many artists for whitewashing or just giving a character a lighter skin color. Respect the artistic vision of the original authors, especially if you have a job thanks to them. Bro, get the fuck out of here." And one Japanese user saying, quote, "I'll put it back." And then of course you have people on the other side defending the young artists, such as this user saying, quote, "If this fan art bothers you, you're the problem, not the artist." Another user saying, quote, "Hot take, there's nothing wrong with race swapping fan art. You can draw whatever you want, it's only an issue when you claim that it's better than the original or if it's a fix." Which is a take I can agree with. I mean, I personally find unwarranted art fixing kinda distasteful and just disrespectful. And then you have AJ Beckles, who voices Okarun in the English dub of Dandadan, briefly changing his profile picture to the fan edit of Okarun. He tweeted, quote, "This is fire, thank you." Now, the VA himself also has provided his voice in shows and games like Honkai Star Rail, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Delicious in Dungeon, Like a Dragon, Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, Tokyo Revengers, Genshin Impact, but more on him later. Now, whichever side of the fence you fall on in the situation, whether you're in support of the artist and think they shouldn't be getting so much backlash, or whether you agree that there is hypocrisy and double standards involved in situations like these, I'll leave it up to you. Come to your own conclusions about the situation. What I personally think about this situation is, I think both this situation and the marina situation and all the other situations similar to this one are kind of stupid. I don't believe people should be throwing a hissy fit over a fan edit, but I agree that there are double standards in situations like these, and I think it's a little disingenuous to say otherwise. But like I said at the beginning of the video, artists should be allowed to have the freedom to create what-if scenarios with the characters however they want, and that includes skin color and cultural background. Because while I agree that there is that double standard when it comes to fan arts and fan edits that depict established characters and, different cultural backgrounds, I also acknowledge the fact that while I personally don't need it, there are people out there who would like to see characters if they were from their own cultural background. And I think fan arts and edits are cool and fine in that sense, and artists and anyone else shouldn't be harassed for creating or, appreciating such things. Now, AJ Beckles, Okarun's VA for the English dub of Dandadan, showed support for the artist's fan edit by temporarily changing his profile picture to the edited version of Okarun. While some praise him for his actions, unfortunately though, he's also received a good portion of the backlash as people perceived his actions as endorsing blackwashing, racism, hypocrisy, as well as disrespecting the original artwork, with some calling for him to step down from his role as Okarun. Beckles though has since changed his profile picture to a fan art of himself, and has since deactivated his account and has gone to Blue Sky for the time being, saying, quote, "I deactivated my Twitter so the racists have nothing to interact with. Don't worry, I'm fine guys." Unfortunately though, people were still hounding him as I scrolled down a little bit to see what was happening under the Blue Sky tweet he made, and I saw a rather disgusting fan art of Beckles that But another reason why Beckles is receiving backlash is because of his past tweets, particularly these two where he says, quote, "Every time there is a black actor cast in a role in fantasy where the source material version is lighter skinned, someone always has something to say about it. It's so tiring, it doesn't affect the character whatsoever." And another tweet saying, quote, "The reason white people in most cases shouldn't be playing POC isn't a matter of color, it's culture. Speaking for black people, we know what a barbershop sounds like on Sundays, what a hot comb smells like when it's going through our hair. It's not the color, it's the culture." Now, these tweets, I do agree to some extent. I think it's a bit of a gray line when it comes to an established character that's being race swapped, but I think for the most part, as long as the source material is respected, people won't really give, they won't care too much. But for the tweet that mentions culture, I'm not sure I entirely agree with it either. My personal opinion on the matter is that if a certain group of people isn't allowed to play the role of a character from a different background, then the same must be applied for everyone. For example, Kratos from God of War. Absolutely a legendary character from the game series based off of Greek mythology. Now, Greece is a country in southern Europe, and water is wet, yes I know, but bear with me here. So naturally, correct me if I'm wrong here, the country would be populated by white people and has its own culture that makes Greek people unique from the rest of Europe. Now, following Beckles' logic, Kratos should be voiced by a preferably Greek person because that person would understand the cultures, the traditions, the history of Greek people. Kratos has been voiced by two individuals so far who did the character justice. Their names are Terrence C. Carson from the first 3 games of God of War and Christopher Judge in God of War 2018 and the God of War Ragnarok in 2022, both of whom are, just from a surface level viewpoint, African American. I would assume, growing up in the Americas, they wouldn't know too much about Greek culture, and following Beckles' logic, they shouldn't have been voicing Kratos. Another example, Dandadan. Okarun, real name Ken Takakura, is a character of Japanese descent, hailing from the country of Japan, which has its own cultures, traditions, customs, and history. Following Beckles' logic, you get the idea. All I'm saying is, if we strictly casted roles according to how Beckles described it, we would never have gotten one of the most legendary and iconic characters in pop culture, Darth Vader. Now, under the suit was a white actor by the name of David Prowse, whose physique satisfied the imposing role, but according to George Lucas, his voice did not really fit the vision for Vader. And that would lead to James Earl Jones lending his voice to help create a legendary villain. My personal belief and my own upbringing is that people should never be judged by their race or skin color. Rather, they should be judged by how they act. There will be stereotypes, and that's a sad reality, but you won't truly know a person until you actually talk to them. And by talking to people of different cultural backgrounds, that's how you break down the walls of stereotyping. But all this talk of skin tones, hypocrisy, and race is overshadowing another interesting issue that some artists have brought up, and that is the issue of tracing and profiting from someone else's work. Now, throughout the video, I've been calling this image a fan edit, and here's the reason why. User Ruru said, quote, "So much controversy over this, but my concern is that they sell paint overs / edits of other people's art. Putting all the racism debate to aside, someone who steals art and sells getting 40,000 followers for it is sad. You all really need to understand that this is not art, and when people call you out for copying or altering other people's art, it's not because they are being racist or these characters are black, it's because you're disrespecting and profiting off of others' hard work." And Ruru did not come empty-handed, as she managed to grab the screenshot of the fan edit OP's commission pricing for an edit. Personally, I wasn't convinced that the Dandadan fan edit was a one-to-one screen cap of an anime, but now that I'm comparing it side by side to the Twitter user who said I'll put it back, it does seem very close. Of course, the difference being the skin tone, some extra shading and folds on the clothes, some reflections of the glasses, some sweat on Okarun, and altered lips and hair. Aside from those changes, it is pretty close to the screenshot of the scene. The OP of the fan edit did try to defend themselves, saying, quote, "I'm not selling or editing anyone's art, these are all anime screenshots by the way," which was also community noted, saying that editing and selling screenshots of anime violates Japanese copyright law, and even if it happened overseas via the internet, the infringement is deemed to have occurred in Japan, and Japanese copyright law may apply. Now, to be clear here, as far as I understand it, as a hobby artist, depending on the anime, each scene is crafted by artists using both 2D and 3D software to build environments and characters, like using software like Blender. Screenshots from an anime is still a screenshot of some other studio artist's work, and while I agree the OP of the fan edit should have creative freedom and shouldn't be harassed, I also think selling fan edits of a screenshot from an anime is very dangerous waters to swim in. Now, briefly touching the topic of selling fan art, as I understand from watching Inkwell's video, which is a really good watch, you should go ahead and watch it if you want to know more. While companies have the right to go after anyone who sells unlicensed merchandise, they don't really care because the selling of fan art helps keep the IP relevant. That's basically my dumbed down version of the video. Inkwell goes into more detail about the topic, so go ahead and check it out. I could also be phrasing it wrong, so go ahead and correct me in the comments if I am. However, in the Dandadan fan edit situation, I personally wouldn't be so sure on selling an edited screenshot that resembles very closely to the source, no matter what you change, right? Like the skin tones or the hair, the lips. I mean, if it resembles too closely to the screenshot, it's a little iffy. Overall though, I would say that the entire situation is messy. I think it's lose-lose, everywhere. I think it's ridiculous that people are getting feisty over creative expression, whether it's, the edit or Beakup's fan art or any fan art that received the same amount of hate in the past. I think people who are harassing artists for doing those types of creative expressions, it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's the rundown of what's happened in the Dandadan fan edit controversy and my own opinions. Now let me know your thoughts down below, and for the love of God, don't be an asshole to any of the people mentioned above, and please keep it civil in the comments. Anyway, see ya.